What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Knives of the Round Table. My name is Marco, and today we're going to be taking a look at the TRM Shadow. TRM stands for Three Rivers Manufacturing, and it's a small company that generates a lot of hype, that generates a lot of buzz, and because they produce the small batches, it's hard to get a hold of their knives, and I've only been able to buy for myself the smaller version of this knife, which is the TRM Nerd. Now, I want to thank Kevin from Knife Nerdery, and if you haven't checked out his channel, please go and check out his channel. It's really, really good. I want to thank him because he sent me two TRMs. He sent me the Shadow that you see there, and he also sent me the Atom, which is this one. I will do a review of this soon. But he sent me these to check out, and I want to thank him a lot for it because these are important knives to him, and they're hard to get, they're hard to find. And the fact that he trusted me with them, it's awesome. It's very generous, and I thank him. So if you guys could go check out his channel, I think you'll enjoy his content as well. His focus is far more. Mine is more of my experience with the knife. His is far more detailed in very specific ways. So let me give you a tour of the Shadow. The Shadow has this kind of reverse tanto sheep's foot blade, and it's right in my Goldilocks zone of size. So a little over 3 inches, so 3 1/8, just about, is the blade length. So really, really good size of a blade. I like, if you follow my channel, you know that my preference is like a 3 1/4 inch blade. That's, if I could have my blades all be 3 1/4 inches, that's what at least my folders would be, all in that size. It has, it's an M390, or I'm sorry, it's 20 CV, which for a lot of purposes it's the same thing. It's fairly thin ground. It has these thumb studs that help for deployment. You've got a milled pivot in this kind of seashell type milling, I guess. You've got G10 handles with liners inside. It has an axis style lock, similar to what you will find in a Benchmade. And we'll talk about that when we talk about action. You've got a deep carry pocket clip that has been recessed into the handle, but not only the clip has been recessed, but the screws have also been recessed. So that's really, really, really nice. A G10 back spacer, and that is what you have with this knife. The clip can be reversed from front to back, from left carry to right carry. So it is fully ambidextrous because of the nature of the axis lock. The experience of a righty to a lefty is going to be identical. So if you're a lefty, then you'll enjoy that. So let me give you some size comparisons. What we have is, like I said, a very nice size of a knife. So that is against the Paramilitary 2, and that is the Para 3 right there. So in size, it's a little bit strange because lengthwise it's right in between those two. So it's a little bit longer than the Para 3 and a little bit shorter than the but the cutting edge is certainly at least the Para 2. So you get a decent amount of blade and a decent amount of handle. So even though you have a shorter length of the total knife, because of this space of the forward figure choil that that is kind of large on the Para 2, you can see you almost have about as much handle in that. So the handle on the Para 2 is a little bit longer, but very comparable. Now it is a tall knife, so if you see it in profile here, it is a tall knife. So it's gonna carry very similarly to the Para 2. Now, the comparison with the bug outs is that's a full-size bug out and that's a mini bug out. So lengthwise is very similar to the full-size bug out. But I think what's most comfortable here is the thickness of the blade. So if we compare the thickness of the blade, what's the best way to show you that? Maybe that way. Can you tell? They're almost identical thicknesses. So the full-size bug out has a very, very slicey blade. It's a very thin blade. So what you get is this really, really nice cutting action on this. And we'll talk about that in here in a second. But let me start with the review. And we'll talk ergonomics first. And the ergonomics on this knife are phenomenal. And the reason for that is, first, you got this 4-finger choil that is fairly generous, and then you have the rest of the handle has been contoured, with this swell and a little bit of a dip in the back. So my hand, even when I'm choked back, feels really, really comfortable, and it feels even more comfortable when I'm choked up. The ergonomics on this are really, really good. The fact that it's a taller knife, it's what it is, and the fact that you have all of this contouring, it's got chamfering, it's not rounded, there's a flat face here, but it has a pretty good round over from this face to that face. The contouring goes really, really nicely, so it feels really, really good in the hand. I would put the ergonomics I would put them a little bit better than the Para 2, because even though they have very similar contouring, as far as this is concerned, and the finger choil and all of that, the scales on the Para 2 go from this flat surface to this flat surface with the smallest, if at all, round over. This corner is kind of a 90-degree corner, whereas the transition between this face and this face, or that face, you can see it's much more of a larger radius, and that makes it so that it's much more comfortable in the hand. So while the contouring is similar to what you would feel in the Para 2, holding it in your hand feels much more comfortable. So the ergonomics better than the Para 2, and I would say that they're very, very good. Now, the action on this thing. The action is incredible. So you have an axis style lock, and if you're familiar with a Benchmade, then you know what that feels like. But what they've done is a little bit, I guess it's improved on a design, right? So Benchmade came up with the axis lock, as far as I know. I think that's that, but I think their patent expired. So now they other companies can do similarly styled locks. And what these guys have done is, the bar, it's a little bit better, it behaves a little bit better, and it's easier to disassemble, because I don't know if you can tell, but there's a Torx head on that axis bar. So you can disassemble the axis bar and then reassemble it. And if you've ever taken apart a bug out, the process of getting out the lock bar, inside with the Omega springs, I won't say it's impossible, but it's certainly not the most pleasant thing in the world. And the fact that they've done an axis lock that you can remove via a Torx head screw, it's really, really nice. So I think this behaves better than this one, and it's easier to disassemble. So it's certainly the same style, but this is like a next evolution, let's say, of the action, and I love it. It obviously drops shut when you release it. It's the detent is nice enough. It won't open when you shake it, but it will snap open when you push it out. The thumb studs are really, really good, and you can have different color O-rings. They sell them to you. So if you wanted to do like a red accent or a blue accent, green or whatever you want, it's a way to to kind of pump up your your shadow. So the action, it's I would say it's similar to a Benchmade, but a little bit better. And even though it has a very thin blade, it still just drops shut. And it's on phosphor bronze washers. I don't know. Let me see if I can show you. I don't know if you can tell inside, but it's phosphor bronze washers. So even though it's on phosphor bronze washers, the action is just really, really smooth, really, really, really nice. It's like I said, I think it's like the next evolution, like the next evolutionary step in the axis lock. It looks like these guys took a very good locking mechanism that is the axis lock, and just refined it and made it better, and they came up with this. I'm not sure what they call it. I'm sure they don't call it an axis lock, but something else. And also, it's a little bit bigger. The axis lock, it only extends a little bit from the handle scales on the bug out. It extends far more from the scales on the Shadow, and what that does, it gives you far more purchase. When you're trying to disengage or engage the lock bar, it's the access to these is very, very easy, very, very comfortable, very, very nice. So I think if you enjoy the action on a Benchmade axis lock, I think you will much more enjoy the action on the Shadow. I think it's a little bit better. Like I said, it's like they took their axis lock and refined it and made it better and improved on it. So really, really good. Now, cutting on this thing, like I said, the thickness of the blade is very similar to the thickness of the bug out. But look at that. It has a very tall blade, and it carries the primary grind carries a good ways up. It has a little bit of a flat up here, but it becomes really, really thin behind the edge, and it slices really, really nicely. These tall blades, I enjoy these very, very tall blades because they cut through things very, very nicely. So I would say that this is one of the, it's a little bit slicier than a Para 2, and that's already saying something. So the Para 2 is already what I think is a pretty decent slicer, but this one's even better, especially coming through things like cardboard or food preparation. Like if you slice an apple on this, you can create these really, really nice and thin apple slices. So for EDC tasks, I would not consider this. This is probably the heaviest duty knife that TRM makes, but I would not by any stretch consider this a hard use knife, especially because the blade stock is much, much thinner. It's very much in the same category as I would use a bug out. Okay, so if you have harder tasks for your knives, then I would say it's probably a zero tolerance, a Hinder, or something like a Mini Adamas from Benchmade. Those are better choices. But if your EDC tasks are, cardboard, light rope, paracord, that kind of thing, or just food prep, I would say that this is an outstanding slicer. It's just really, really good, especially due to the fact that you have a very thin blade on it. So very good for cutting. Now, fit and finish, I have been very, very impressed by TRM. So like I said, I only have on my own personal collection the Nerd, and I'm glad that Kevin was able to send me these two, because it gives me a far better understanding of the entire lineup of the brand. And once I finish with the reviews, I will do a brand overview once I've had a chance to carry this one a little bit more. But the fit and finish is outstanding. They have a small production, and I think they pay a lot of attention to detail. And the fact that they've refused to increase their prices even with as high a demand as they have, I think it just speaks to very decent people. I don't know any of them. I haven't talked to any of them. I have zero contact with them. Me and my team viewers have no sway or contacts with TRM, but they they make a very good knife at a very good price point. A lot of these knives are in the $200 range, a little bit less, a little bit more, and then you can buy a whole bunch of different scales, especially for ones like this one. I don't think there's many scales for this one. I don't think they have them yet. But you have to put up with the fact that they're a smaller company and that their knives are hard to get. I've been in however many lotteries for a Shadow, and I just have not been able to get one. Like I said, the only one that I have is a Nerd, which is very similar to this. I think you can find I'm gonna link to the Nerd review here at the end of the video. But it's basically the smaller version of this. But that one is a liner lock and it doesn't have the axis. So I think for my style of knife, this is the size. This is a much better fit for me, especially for my uses and for the size of my hand. But at this price point, the fit and finish of these knives it's just excellent. I think very much in line with, I think, probably much better quality, not in line, but better quality than what you get from a Benchmade. At least you get a little bit more attention to detail, especially like around the pivot and that kind of stuff. And like I said, the price point, it's hard to beat the value of what you get with a TRM. So, airing of grievances, availability. I would say that if I had one grievance, is availability. I have not been able to get one. I've been after, especially a Shadow. This is the one that I'm really after. In over a year. Okay, I've tried to get in on the drops. I haven't been able to. They've been a couple of lotteries. I haven't won, and they do them in batches of 25. At least the latest lotteries that I've been a part of have been 25. So there's far more demand for these knives than 25. So I would say that get in line, try and follow them in everywhere, and you'll find out when they drop and when they have lotteries. But it's a little bit of a unicorn. They're hard to find, they're hard to get. But as all things in life, the harder the thing is to get, usually the better. And this one is no exception. I think this is an outstanding knife. The action is really good. The fit and finish, the cutting action, the ergonomics. I think for me, I generally like a little bit of a heavier knife. So instead of the G10, I would like, either aluminum or titanium handles. It's kind of, I don't think they do that with any of their knives. I think most of them are micartas and G10s, those kinds of things. I believe they started making titanium scales for this one. But for the most part, they don't do that. But like I always said, I like the feeling of solidity, and that's whenever I've done a scale swap, I go for a slab of titanium. When I bought my bug out, I bought the aluminum handle, which is a little bit heavier than the carbon fiber version of the knife. There's certainly a group of people, or the majority of people, that enjoy a lighter knife. But for my use and for what I do, I only need one light knife for when I'm wearing shorts, and that's my mini bug out, and that's what I throw in my pocket. For everything else, I prefer a knife that has a little bit more heft. So if I were to make one design choice, I would change this to a titanium or heavier, aluminum at least scale. So guys, this has been a phenomenal experience. I want to again thank Kevin from Knife Nerdery. Again, follow him. I will link his channel down below. Incredibly generous of him to let me borrow one of his babies. This is the knife that started his channel. At least that's what he mentioned in one of his videos. So I want to thank him for for being generous, for being trusting with me. I hope I send it to you in at least as good a shape as you sent it to me, and this will go back to you here in just a little bit. Guys, thank you much for tuning in. If you liked it, if I earned it, then like and subscribe. And until I see you at the next one, take care.